Right, morning guys. I'm up this morning doing a little bit of dead baiting. Not something you'll see me involved with loads of, but there are times when conditions dictate that we need to dead bait. Probably before Christmas, 4 or 5 of a session ended up as dead baiting just simply because of bad weather conditions, cover, flood water, that kind of thing. Pushed us into slacks and we ended up dead baiting just to try and find some fish. So it is something that we do need to turn his hand to. It's worth having in your armoury, and it turns fish up. It turns good fish up every year. You see a lot of people dead baiting. Don't static dead bait, so I'm not sat in one spot all day on alarms. Never do that. I'm a mobile dead baiter. I fish my baits mobile, fish them ready to go. So rods are always made up. I'm going to go through some tackle here. I'm going to go through setting your depth and hopefully go through catching a fish or two. So I'll run through a few bits. I mean, like I said, I don't static dead bait, so there's no alarm systems and things like that. It's all done on float, it's all done mobile, so that we can keep on move. I fish in exactly the same way if I'm on a boat or on a bank. Rods never change, so occasionally I'll have a bank stick just to get me rod up in air and get my line off the water, and that's about it really. All done floats on bite detection. You know, easiest way to go. It's very simple, very effective. Always bring those with me whenever I'm out. There's always a little rod. Fish goes round deads most of the time. I do feel that it brings fish on. Sometimes you can pull a fish that's maybe laid on bottom with a lure, and it'll turn onto your bait. I have had that, or I've assumed that's happened because I've cornered bait very quickly after having a follow. So yeah, here's a little bit about just setting up. So I'll go through tackle. I'll drop that clip in now. Morning guys. Lovely morning this morning. It's a chilly, sunny, crisp winter's morning, and I'd love to be out today, but unfortunately I'm off to work shortly. So I'm hoping to fish in the morning. I'm going to get up early in the morning and get a couple of hours. So in preparation for that, I'm going to do a bit of dead baiting tomorrow. I'm just going to run through my really basic dead bait setup that I use all the time for rivers, canals, lakes, everything. It's more of a mobile setup, no alarms or fancy stuff like that. It's a float setup, and it lets you be really quick and really mobile. Tweaked over many years of dead baiting, a few little tricks and tips that I'm going to try and pass on to you. So that's what I'm going to do this morning. I'm going to quickly run through gear that I use, and I'm going to give you a couple of pointers about why I use what I use, that I've picked up since I've been dead baiting. I started my pike fishing dead baiting before I moved on to lures. So this is what I've picked up and why. Okay, just to start off, we'll start off with floats. I use these, cheap as chips, polystyrene floats. They're less than £2 each. Get them from all over. These are from Eddie Turner. I've got a delivery from Eddie Turner, come through with a few bits and bats that I needed. And this one made up on here is the one that I'm going to change for you in a minute. And that's the one I'm taking off. Probably have that float 5-6 years. It's absolutely battered, and that's exactly why I use polystyrene floats. They're really cheap, but they just take an hammer in. You can still use that float. I can see that float a mile off. It's white with a bright red top. It gets knocked about on boats. You cast it into stuff, it bangs on the side, it bangs on bankings and trees and brambles and all sorts of stuff. So they just take a battery. And if you buy your Fox ones, your Savage gear, your clear plastic ones, hollow ones, inevitably they crack and they take water on and they don't work anymore. These are solid polystyrene. There's nothing that can go wrong. It's a big white piece of polystyrene with an hole through the middle. That's why I use them. Stop knots, I always use a power gum stop knot. This is just cheap red power gum. You can use your little float stops if that's what you want to do. That's absolutely fine. But red power gum it's bright red. I can see it on my line's green. I'll tie a stop knot in a minute, but I can see that against my green line when it's on water. So I can see if I'm up to my stop knot or not, which is important when you're setting depth. Buffer beads, so on my float I've got a buffer bead either side of my float, this one here and this one here. Again, they're just cheap plastic buffer beads, I don't buy out special. Sea fishing ones you get about 100 for £1 or something, and bright colours again, so I can see if I'm up to my bead, if I'm up to my stop knot. It just gives you that extra visual aid. I can see if I'm over depth and my stop knot's here and my float's here, I can see where it is. I know I'm over depth. Run ring, this is a large bore run ring with a clip on bottom, a fast attachment clip so I can take my lead on and off. Large bore, so the line runs freely through it. It's plastic, so it's not going to damage my braid, and it's got this fast attachment clip on it, so I can take my lead on and off when I want to. I can change leads when my rods are made up like they are here and I'm carrying them. I can just whip my lead off and it's not bouncing about all over. That's why I don't put a lead directly on my line. And then at the end I use these quick change trace links, if you can see that. These are Fox ones, and a buffer bead that actually locks over that swivel. I like to have one that locks over end at swivel. At the end there, that goes on the very end, and this buffer bead will go up to it and it'll buff up to that, and it's important obviously that don't fit over there, but I like the ones that lock on. The quick change trace links, there's 3 good reasons that I've used these for a long time now. First of all, that once I've made it up, once I've made my rod up like I have today, or what I'm going to do today, that's ready. It's got that quick change trace link on the end and it's ready to go, and that can sit in my garage, sit in my car. Don't need to have a lead on because of my quick change run ring, and it don't need to have a trace on because of my trace link, so it's not snagging on anything when it's just sat in garage, made up, or in car. And then also between swims, because I'm using this mostly when I'm roving, so I'm moving about, I might have half an hour in a swim, I might have 20 minutes in a swim and then move, I can take my trace off so that it's not catching on stuff. And I can also, when I get to my new swim, when I'm leading up again to find my depth, because you need to check depth on every swim, you can take your trace off so you're not casting your bait out in your trace and potentially snagging up while you're setting your depth. And the final reason, when you've got a fish in net, I can clip my trace off, I can get rod out of the way, stand it up over here out of the way, there's no line running about everywhere, all that's left in there is my trace and my fish, and I can unhook it then. So that's a basic. I'm using £40 Power Pro on my bait gear. I've got a Shimano 8000 series bait runner and £3 test curve boat rods. These are Mick Brown special boat rods, and that's my setup. I've used it for years, and I'm going to run through now how I set it up just to really show you exactly how I do it. So like I said, these rods, I've got these tip and butt protectors. They sit made up, folded in half, they're ready to go. I can be fishing in minutes. When I get to the bank, take my ends off, click bait runner on, try and make this as graceful as I can for you. Not easy under my garage, but there you go. There you go. Rod together. Come on. Come on. Come on. There it is. And I'm ready to lead up and go. So today, what I'm going to do, I can't see me stop knot on this. I'm going to freshen this up. It's been on a long time. What tends to happen is the last sort of 10 foot or so of braid gets frayed, because that's the one that you're using most of the time. I'm going to take about 10 foot of braid off, and I'm going to discard that, just so that it's not getting all frayed and knackered. And I can reuse some components I've got here. I'm going to put a new float on because I think that one's had its day, and this is exactly how I make it up. I ain't got any extra beads, so I'll have to use these ones. The rest of the stuff I'll use this new stuff I've just got. So start with a buffer bead. It's a bright pink buffer bead, so I'll be able to see that from a distance. Tidy that end up. End up braid's a little bit frayed. The beauty of doing this at home is you're not fiddling about on bank doing all this. There you go. Buffer bead first, then a no float. Look for a nice bright orange one. Can be fiddly to feed through. I always wet end at line to feed it through. So feed that through. There it is. Grab it quick. Put my floats on. I need my other bead. Just still on here. Annoyingly. Pop it on. There we go. So bead, float, bead, large board run ring. Pop him on there. On he goes. Yep. And then there's buffer bead. This one that actually pushes onto my swivel. Feed him on. There he goes. So buffer bead. And finally the trace adapter. We're going to tie that on with a Palomar knot, so make yourself a loop at the end of your line. Put your loop through your swivel and then tie that in a overhand knot. Loop back through there, pull that tight, and then your tag end, which is now your loop, goes over that, back over the top of your swivel or your quick change adapter. Wet it, pull it tight, then pull on your tag end as well. And your scissors, obviously my fishing scissors are somewhere else because I'm using kitchen scissors. Cut your tag end off, and remember your little buffer bead that pulls down. Actually pull him over the top of your swivel. That protects your knot, protects your swivel. And that's it. That is pretty much made up. I'm going to tie a stop knot on. So remember, we went with a brightly coloured bead, one of these polystyrene floats, another brightly coloured bead, large board run ring, buffer bead, quick change trace link. All it needs now is a stop knot. So I did cut a piece of powder from a little piece. Bright red power gum. Make a loop. Put it between your fingers like that. Lay it up against your line. So I've laid my power gum against my line. One of your tag ends. 1, 2, 3, 4. Grab your tags, pull that tight. That's the sliding stop knot. That stop knot moves up and down. Leave your tags on. If you want to go through your eyes, it just goes through your eyes. But it just helps you to see it. Just make sure it's pulled down nice and tight. And all knots together. And that'll just slide up and down your line and you can see it. You can use float stops if that's what you prefer. and that's it. That's my setup, all ready to go. Easy peasy. And like I say, because of the way I set it up, I'll fold this up. I'll fold it up now and it'll be ready tomorrow when I need it. Right, so that was just a little bit on tackling up, showing you just exactly what components that I use to make up my dead baiting kit. So next thing, you know, you're at water, you've got yourself to your venue, you're in your spot, make your rod up. This is a little clip on just how to set your depth and lead up. I'm going to move my float and I want to fish this area in front of us here. This shelf here, it's on the edge of this bit of flow, and it's where it starts to shallow up, so it shallows up to right where that weed bed is. So I want to put my bait on the edge of it. Take my trace off just to make sure I don't snag up while I'm doing this, because I'm going to be casting a lot. What you want to be is a controlled amount over depth. You'll hear people talking about fishing over depth, and this is what that means basically in a nutshell. So when you're fishing a spot, so my float sits up, it's bolt upright, and it's bobbing around, and it's coming towards me with flow. So I know I'm under depth. I know that my lead is mid-water, it's not sat on bottom, and you might want to fish that way. You might want to move in bait, you might want to trot it down current like you would with a stick float, and that's a good way to fish at times. But I want to sit on bottom today, so I get my little float stop, and I'm gonna go exaggeratedly over depth to show you over depth here. I'm gonna go right over depth. So I've put well over 10 foot of depth on here, and I know it's not that deep here. On my corner, right, and my float is totally flat. It's laid down flat on top. That means I'm over depth. If I could see my stop knot or my float stop, which I can just see, it's probably about a foot or two over depth, that. So my lead's sat on bottom, my float's just laid flat on top. What we're looking for now is that controlled amount. We don't want to be miles over depth. If you're miles over depth, when the fish picks up the bait, it's got loads of spare line before it even registers. When you stop, when you float, it's that stop knot. There you go. You saw when that float cocked up then and then sat back down, that's what led it in bottom. So I'm still over depth. Let's take another foot off. I know it's not deep here, so watch it, watch it, watch it. There you go, float's just it. Now if that's not moving, that is dead depth. My lead's on bottom. We sort of led it bottom because it bounced, and my float sat up, which means I've got exactly the correct amount of line between my float stop and my lead for it to be on bottom and on top. My float on top, my lead on bottom, and it's just going to sit there on that corner. Now I'm really happy with that presentation. This is an inline lead. If I were fishing a running lead, it's different, because my lead's actually on my line, in line with my float. As soon as a fish picks that up, it'll lift the lead off the bottom, my float will lay down flat. If it picks it up and runs, it'll pull my float under. Now if I were fishing a running lead with a run ring, which I quite often do, let's get this back out and fishing, which I quite often do, I'd want my float laying down, because then as soon as the fish picks up the bait or moves the bait, your float stands up. So that's just a bit about setting your depth. Clip your trace back on, make sure your dead bait's happy. And now we're fishing on the corner. And there it is. Right where I want it. And that's dead baiting tackle. Find your fish. If you know a spot where you always seem to catch on a lure, it's probably a fish holding spot, probably worth dead baiting. If you can find bait fish or good features, it's probably worth sitting on. I tend to stay maybe half an hour in one spot. If I'm moving about, give it half an hour. You'll find takes come very quickly. They might come in first 5 or 10 minutes in fact. Give it half an hour in the spot and then move. Only time I might dwell a bit longer is if I'm on a really sort of an area that I know holds fish and it's worth waiting for. But give it a go. Any questions, drop them in comments. Stay safe, keep fishing as much as we can in lockdown, and yeah, cheers guys, like and subscribe.